Well, do you want to tell people what you do at the minute?
Yes, so I work in product at Sky Bet on the front end. So we're doing a lot of exciting projects. And I guess it's pretty good because even with everything that's going on, we've still managed to crack on with lack of sports and stuff like that. We're working on like some longer term projects, so it's not really impacted us too much.
When was your experience at the startup that we were discussing earlier?
Yeah, I guess it's not exactly a startup, but it just felt like a startup because
Yeah.
we were constantly like changing and adapting. So we had like a few avenues of what we'd go after. So I was working in email marketing, and there was a lot of like generation work going on. But say if something stopped working, then we'd kind of like go after something else. So it's quite agile like that. But the culture wise, it very much felt like a startup. So like I wasn't there for it, but I heard stories of the CEO doing a presentation in a mankini, and like
What?
we'd all like I know we'd all like have beers every Friday. Like it was very like it almost felt like family, not like work. It was like really
Okay, yeah.
enjoyable, like really close knit.
How many like employees are we talking?
Probably like 30-ish, maybe 40.
And,
So it's quite small.
and was this after we graduated?
Yeah. So I worked at a small like business when we graduated, and then I moved on to this startup place. So I guess like culture wise, it was a real shock. Hold on. Yeah, it was a real shock because like the first place I worked was really corporate and really like not old fashioned, but just really kind of, you know, used to how they run things and not really like changing like what they did worked, so they just stuck with it. And then when I went to this place, it was kind of like, wow, this is mental.
Are they similar
You
in
know,
size or just obviously different in culture? But
I'd say the first company was a lot bigger. We had a lot of, basically it was in the meat industry. So we'd hire vets from like all over Europe to come and work in the UK as vets. So that was kind of a weird context to work in, especially given that I'm a vegetarian.
I was going to say,
But
were you a vegetarian going into that?
yeah,
What did it make
yeah.
you?
No,
So,
I was already vegetarian and I had been for a while. But yeah, so basically, like a lot of people don't know this, but vets work in slaughterhouses to make sure that the way that they're, you know, handling the process is the most humane way for the animals. So I was doing a lot of like marketing, like blogging, like online social media, pay per click, all that kind of stuff. And like they wanted some like video footage of in the slaughterhouses, so I had to like choreograph and like lead that on the day. So going into the slaughterhouse, so that was like just such a weird situation to be in, especially given that I'm obviously vegetarian. But it was a really good experience as well. Like I loved like doing the videoing, and gave me some really good experience. But just yeah,
did you literally
very
go with
odd.
a camera crew?
Yeah, yeah, it was weird because it was like the main guy and then like a couple of other people as well, like helping. But we all have to obviously get all kitted up and stuff and like put like wrap the pod thing. It was really odd, such a weird experience. I guess like when I'm in interviews as well, it's just like, wait, what? You did what? But yeah, I guess something interesting to share.
What? So I guess what did you? Without going into too much detail, what did you? Oh no, actually, what? So what were you trying to sell? Sorry.
So it wasn't that we were trying to sell anything. We were trying to, because a lot of the blogs was about that I was writing was about moving to the UK, like how you can do it, like how like what life is like in the UK, like all the process of that kind of bit, but it wasn't necessarily about the actual job. So they wanted to give like a real experience of what that would be like for them. Because a lot of these vets had like just graduated and maybe worked in like actual surgeries rather than slaughterhouses. So I wanted to like connect the dots in how you'd use your skills and like what would be expected of you. So it took a few vets with us, and they just like explained like in the slaughterhouse like what they would actually do and what's involved in that. But yeah, such a weird one.
I'm just imagining like this like Facebook ad of just like, this is what you could be doing, and like just, I don't know, watching like some poor pig just get like slaughtered.
Yeah, it wasn't quite that graphic. It was more just like about like how you have to have good like communication skills, like understand what's going on, like know when to kind of which parts in the process you'd be involved in, that kind of stuff. But yeah, very odd.
And yeah, so what? Like, obviously, I've never been. Most people will have never been to a slaughterhouse. So what did you see that you didn't like expect went on or something?
Well, they were kind of good with me because I explained that obviously I didn't really want to get too into the areas that were really graphic. But I think the thing that always sticks with me is like the smell, and then also the fact that the animals are so intelligent. So you'd think that they wouldn't know what's going to happen because why would they? But it seemed like they did with their reactions. So that was horrible, to be fair.
Yeah. Oh man, that like the thought of ruining the smell of like bacon or something is just like heartbreaking.
Oh God.
Um,
So have you ever been involved in that kind of stuff? Because I know that you've had loads of experience with the food industry and stuff. So
yeah.
like the sourcing of food.
No, I mean, like, I guess you've never really got a reason to go to that stage in the process. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, like we went to like the meat cure in Northern Ireland for like when we opened the steakhouse, for example. But like, there wasn't even that was just like there was butchery, and we were opening a butcher's. But yeah, we never actually saw the horrible process before that. So I guess there's probably a reason why people miss that bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's odd because obviously having that experience and a lot of my friends are meat eaters, probably the majority, but then like most people haven't actually been to slaughterhouses, so it's just weird.
I think it is that like classic thing of like you just see like, I don't know, whatever on the shelf is just food, don't you? And you never like really you never like, you know where it comes from obviously, but like until you see it, I imagine it's different.
Mm, yeah, exactly.
So I've talked on the podcast a little bit before about, well, I talked to like Mark Anderson about when we were like kind of we were on placement and coming out of uni and the kind of the experience of um, graduating and then going into the workplace, I guess. So obviously we were on the same university course. So what did you what did you think that you gained from having the degree, or maybe not, or lack of?
I think there's a lot of things that I took into jobs that I could use, and it was really helpful because our degree was quite like hands-on, wasn't it? It wasn't really um, like we can use most of it, I guess. Um, but the thing that frustrates me is that in most of the businesses that I've worked for, I see people who are really successful. They haven't got a degree, and they've just got lots of experience working with people and got all those kind of like soft skills. and like, you know, things like winning people over, like getting people's buy-in, getting people to trust you. And I guess I find it a bit frustrating that I feel like I could have easily like succeeded without the degree. You know, there's a lot of things that you learn in businesses that are a lot more valuable than like learning about it, I guess. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, yeah, because like I can't help thinking. I don't regret going to university one bit. Like, but in terms of like academically, professionally, yeah, I can't help thinking like, was it worth it? Probably not. Um, I mean, like, never mind like financially or whatever. Because I think like, I mean, I've said this on the podcast before that like my reasonings for going to uni were like go like move to a new city, like meet new people, party all the time, live the life of a student. Like that was essentially the goal. And so like that was like, you know, box ticked. But then when it came to like actually what I learned from I think I learned a lot. I guess I'm glad I went on placement because I learned a lot by doing that, and more for me just by going, oh right, yeah, I don't want to do that. Um, but at least I knew that by doing it. Um, and then in terms of I think I learned more in the final year because I actually like attended and did more work, did a little bit of work. Um, but even then, I think I'd realised the value in. Like I remember, well, I think we had like quite a few debates like about how I said that I like made a decision not to like go for it first. You know, I was like, what's the point? So I went off and did other things. Like I had I had like a full-time job and did charity work and all and stuff, and just used I don't know. I just realized that to learn to prioritize different things. Because I guess we were on a course so it's not like we were doing medicine. So it's not like we had something to aim for.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good springboard, and like you said, the life experiences, like I wouldn't have not gone. Like I definitely always wanted to go, but I think sometimes I think like what would have happened if I got a job straight out of college, or sixth form, and like where would I be now? Like what is having a degree other than like getting that first opportunity really done for me? Like obviously there's a lot of skills and like methodologies and, you know, like Prince 2, all that kind of stuff, entrepreneurship, creativity, business management, that I really enjoyed, and I do think it's useful to know about that stuff. But yeah, a lot of the people in successful positions in the businesses that I work for tend to be those who haven't gone to uni. So I guess that's a bit of the frustration.
That
And,
people kind of
you know,
similar age to us.
yeah, like people in really high up positions. And not only that, but people who, you know, I really idolize and see a lot of like strengths in, even just with like the people side of things that obviously you can't learn at uni. So yeah, I guess it's an interesting one, because especially with how like education's changed now, I wonder if a lot of people share our thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just thinking there, like if you're talking about kind of like the soft skills that you didn't learn at uni, and I think when I think about me coming out of university, like all I think of is in terms of what I've learned. Yeah, I don't think I really learned many hard skills, but I do think I learned a small amount of soft skills. Do you know what I mean? Like even though, for
Yeah,
example, even if you're going out partying and socializing, at least um, you're developing some soft skills. Do you know what I mean? Like
organising a piss up.
organizing your person. Yeah, yeah. Um, but I think obviously you'll never know like whether you would have been better off. Um, but or even like moving to a new city, like you could also argue that the skills that you develop from that.
Yeah. No, I think there's definitely a lot to take out of it. And whilst I sometimes think, like, where could I be now if I didn't spend that time? I think there's a lot of like wins out of it as well. Like you say about like kind of being independent, like learning all those like life skills that are really important. And then, you know, feeling like that you could move to a different place, a different city, a different country. I think if you'd always stayed at home, it might have been a little bit more scary.
Yeah, I guess there is an argument that all these things could be done without the whole forking out tens of thousands of pounds for
Yeah.
education. But did you, when you were doing, when we were at uni, did you have like a plan or a career path that you wanted to head down?
Yeah, I think at my school it was kind of like you go to uni or you fail. So they didn't really like encourage anything else other than that. So I think I always knew that I wanted to go into business. Um, and I think uni and the school and education kind of set me up for failure in a way, because I think they like put my expectations too high. Whereas like I see myself as being successful now because I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I really enjoy going to work, and it's also like making a living. Um, but I think like coming out of uni, I kind of thought like this is going to be really easy. Like you just land into a business, you'll be promoted, you buy a house. Like it's just cool, done.
Yeah, I mean, in the podcast that I did with Mark, that's exactly what he said. He said, "I thought I'd come out of uni, I'd get a grad job within 2-3 years, I'd have the corner office, I'd be like, which is interesting. Like, do you think that's just like because we're told that we can achieve anything and like we think we're invincible? Do you think it's just you're like it's like building naivety into you almost?
Yeah, I think so. And I think also having spent so long at uni and, maybe done a placement year where I think a lot of companies are really positive towards people doing placement years. And it also like almost feels like kind of like your path set and it's easy, and like you don't really see like how it can be difficult and how like you really have to graft. Um, so I think, a lot of uni students would share like similar views in that. Um, and also I think like what people see as successful, like I just said, like I see myself as successful, but that's because I really, really enjoy what I do and I enjoy going to work. Um, so I guess it just depends what you see as successful and what you think is easily achievable coming out of uni, which I think maybe it's like having that all those peers that have high expectations for themselves, that you might like compare yourself to them and think like, am I as successful as them?
Do you think like thinking back to when you were at uni, say, um, whatever 5-6 years ago, do you think you would, if you could see it, if that person could see you now, do you think they would think that you're successful?
Oh, I don't know. I think I'm always quite like relentless with myself, and I put myself under a lot of pressure. And I think with those really high expectations, I'd kind of like Mark, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to be the CEO of something within 5 years, like. Um, but yeah, I think if I could see how like happy I was and like how much joy I get out of like work and what I do and the industry, then I think I'd be really happy with where I am. But obviously, it's quite hard to see that kind of people just look at titles or at like where you are and how long it's taken to get there, rather than those kind of factors.
I guess if you were, um, say if in the company you were working in now, if you were in charge of recruitment, for example, do you would you personally want to look for what would you personally wanting to look for? Say someone that's they're aged 25. You can only employ people that are aged 25. What experience would you want them to have?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I remember when I was on my placement year at ASDA, and like because I was at uni, I was kind of they involved me in a few recruitment processes, which was really interesting. But because I was at uni, I was like constantly looking for that degree, or looking that they were studying, etc. And was kind of like, if it wasn't there, I'd be like, oh, right, like, what's this about? But there were some really interesting applicants where they'd had lots of experience or they'd been in the army, and they kind of like linked it back to how having that experience has really helped with their like people skills and management, like understanding of like project work, that kind of stuff. So I think now I'd probably look more at the the personality, like their like kind of attitude to things, because I think obviously having the degree can be helpful, but a lot of it will be like learning on the job, like responding to feedback and being able to like keep like changing your like self and changing your attitude based on feedback. So I think, if their expectations are so high and they assume it's easy and not wanting to like graft for it, then I think I'd much rather take someone who had like an agile approach to business.
Yeah, I feel like we're like verging towards the like almost immediate conclusion that like soft skills matter way more than hard skills.
I think that's just like my take on it. Like, I'd much rather work with somebody who had those soft skills, and were like willing to learn and change and adapt, than someone who was like really experienced and didn't have any people skills, because it just doesn't work. It's just really difficult to work with people like that, I find. And I guess like in a culture that I'm in, where it's people skills first, people first, like working together, teamwork, like it's not. I don't think that would fit in, that kind of attitude or personality would work.
Yeah,
What do you think?
I think any industry that's like you say like people first, you've got to it's got to be based on personality. I mean, like for example, in hospitality, I've always recruited on personality. Even just trying to look at someone's CV, you try and form a personality in your head. Like if they've, if they've like been traveling or something, then you kind of immediately think, okay, well then they've probably got better people skills because they're being forced to kind of interact with different people and little things that you can pick up on like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, hospitality is one where there's not necessarily. Obviously, there are qualifications in it, but I mean, I'd probably stay away from anyone with a qualification in hospitality. That was my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Because
Why was that?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's maybe quite similar to like qualifications in like just business. I like, in my opinion, anyway. In that, like, it's all about you learn on the job. It's all about the doing. Like, you can't learn you can't learn in a classroom like how to speak to a customer,
Yeah.
for example. Like, and that's that's essentially all hospitality is just dealing with people. And you obviously, you can deal with pressure or stress or whatever, but you can't. None of these you can really teach from a textbook.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah,
think probably just general business is very similar.
I like how you did this.
Yeah, for the listeners, I did a, what do you call them?
I
Bunny
don't
rabbits.
know.
Speech commas. Um, where were we? What were we talking about? You distracted me by bunny rabbit.
We were talking about qualifications versus experience, I guess, and like hard skills, soft skills.
Oh, yeah. So I guess if kind of maybe like reversing the question that I asked earlier, like if say like a 18-year-old was to ask you for advice about what would be the best way to spend your 20s. I know you're still in your 20s, so you've got a lot to learn still from your 20s. We are still in our 20s. But like, what do you think is the best way to like spend your 20s in terms of career development? And that could include going to uni or not, or.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't necessarily say don't go to uni, but I think what I'd focus on is saying, like, have experience, go to different styles of businesses, and like see what you enjoy and what works for you. And then once you've done that, then I'd like maybe think about like the top 10 businesses that you'd want to work for, and try and get into one of those, and then just graft, and good things will happen.
Just graft. What does that? I know what graft means, but I mean, like, I don't know. What do you think when you say like just graft? Like,
I guess like keep your expectations low, keep your like passion and drive high, and just carry on, just keep grafting, like, and good things will happen eventually.
I think that's quite hard, isn't it? Like we said, kind of people like, especially when you've got little experience, is to keep expectations low, but be ambitious at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just about like not like going in and expecting like to be a manager within a year, and because I feel like if you do that you can't learn as well as if you just like keep on grafting, like keep that passion to learn, and like to actually like genuinely learn, rather than to keep like thinking at the next review I want to be promoted. I feel like it's quite hard to like genuinely learn and develop if that's all you're focused on.
Yeah, I think like even I felt sometimes that I was gonna say like I progressed too quickly. Like, oh, like sounds so like high and mighty, but I mean like yeah, I did sometimes feel like I was, in a good way, I was thrown in the deep end, but at the same time I was thinking like, God, like I should have learned how to do this like before now. Do you know what I mean? Like you can go too quickly through your career.
Yeah, I think they always say fake it until you make it, and I do think there's a bit of truth in that. Because I sometimes like think I see people in like respectable positions, and I just think like I feel like I could do that. Like I don't think I'd find that like really really challenging, but I think it's all about the people skills, to be in those positions and to be able to handle like the pressure, responsibility, and like still like help other people develop themselves. Um,
What so I guess in terms of people skills, so like what do you think are the most important skills to have, like say like for example like for as a leader?
I think it's got to be like putting other people first, not being so outcome driven, and also like I think like being able to make people care about something that no one does care about, like engaging people in something that's like really boring, or that doesn't necessarily matter to them, being able to have that like kind of charisma to get people to care about it.
Is that kind of just like getting people's buy-in into
hmm
what?
Yeah, like getting people's buy-in, winning others over, I guess.
I think that's interesting, like how you put like, yeah, getting people to um getting people to be interested in something that they're not interested in.
Yeah, I think that's all in like, genuinely taking interest in the other person, and also having good intentions as to why you want them to care about it. Then I think it's a lot easier if you're coming at it from like a genuine point of view rather than like, like kind of trying to like manipulate someone.
Yeah, and I think you've got to treat each person differently as well. Like, I think that's like you can't, like, it's not an exact science. Like, people aren't an exact science. I
Yeah.
always try and think like that because, like, even just like, yeah, I don't know, just different ages or like genders or like backgrounds or like they're all going to be like things that are going to affect how someone's going to like react to your leadership style.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think it's kind of, there's a lot of these aspects in like sales where to be able to sell somebody something, you need to know like why they care about it. So, if I was trying to sell you a bikini because I'm saying it'll be really good to go to the beach with, but you hate the beach, it's just not going to work.
You think that me not liking the beach would stop me buying a bikini?
Yes.
Again, I think like gender things like that might come into it.
But you know what I mean? Like, I guess you've got to genuinely care about like where they're coming from and their position, so that then they can imagine that whatever you're trying to pitch to them.
Yeah, yeah. It's like Simon Sinek's um, why. You got to know why.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely love him. By the way,
Yeah.
found that really useful. Yeah. I also really liked Adam Grant's How to Love Criticism. Thought it was really interesting. Um, he talks about how you can train your brain to receive the bad feedback and kind of take that pain, but like follow it up with like an immediate reaction of like pleasure because you know that it's going to benefit you in the long term.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that was really interesting.
Was that like? Because I think that's easy said than done, isn't it? Like wanting to receive criticism.
Hmm.
It's like you need to like I don't know. I'm imagining in my head just like giving like a dog treat. You get like a little treat every time you get criticism, and you're like, oh, I love
Yeah,
criticism.
yeah. I think like obviously you're not going to be like really, really excited for someone to tell you how shit you are,
I like you
but
get a donut out of it, maybe.
yeah, like if you keep like remembering, like going back to a time where you've received criticism and then how you feel like it's helped you to like develop yourself, then I guess that's kind of like your treat thing where you keep like taking your brain back to that experience,
Mm.
where it helped you to like get along somehow.
Do you have you found that like where or the working environments that you either worked in or working in now, are they like have there been environments that are like quite critical or not?
Um, Well, I guess in most of the businesses that I've worked in, it's always based on like feedback, and like getting whether it's like 360 feedback, like whatever it is. So I wouldn't say it's critical, but like as a business, I'd say most of them are focused on like kind of your weaknesses rather than your strengths. So I'm a real fan of Strengths Finder, and like understanding like it's kind of like the basement and the balcony thing as well, where you understand like where you operate that makes you happy and that you like do your best, and then really honing in on that and keep making that like forefront of everything that you do, rather than thinking, you know, I'm not good at maths, or I'm not good at whatever it is, spreadsheets for instance, and like trying to make yourself average at that. I'd rather really excel at like people skills or presentations, storytelling. I'd rather really excel at those than, you know, focus on something that I'm never going to be that good at.
Okay, so do you prefer to essentially focus on your strengths rather than like double down on your strengths rather than kind of cover your weaknesses?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess there's been a few jobs that have had like a matrix for each person, and you kind of like measure yourself up against this matrix. And I just think, like, you know, everyone's different, so you can't really fit into that matrix, so it's kind of like setting them up to fail or to feel like inadequate in some areas. Whereas I'd rather think, like, as a team, like, this is how you're going to best benefit the whole team by making sure that you're happy and that you're bringing us the benefits of what you're good at, rather than feeling inadequate, like, you know, someone else is better at this than I am. Because I think when people are unhappy, then they don't work at their best.
So you're trying to say that you need to find your personal best way of like working or progressing yourself, and then like instill that into the team that you're working in, kind of thing. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think it's just like an attitude and a way of looking at something that, you know, you're not gonna go at it from a point of view of like everyone needs to be good at these 10 things, and if you're not, then that's what we're going to discuss in your review. It should be more that, like, as a team, this person brings these 5 really great like skills and they're happy when they're doing that. So like as a whole, we have like a full spectrum of different people who all operate, you know, they're all happy because they're all doing what they enjoy and what they're good at. Because, you know, it does make you happy to be good at something. Like,
Yeah.
you're not happy if you're not, you don't feel like you're excelling at what you're doing.
So in like reviews, how what's the best? I guess what's the best method that you found to either give or receive negative or positive feedback? Because I think I've always like for example, companies that I've worked in, there's often been a lot of like negative feedback or constructive feedback, if you want to call it that, um,
Mhm.
which has always which I've always been able to work with and build on, but then not as much positive feedback, which I guess is quite similar for a lot of companies. You know, like it's people. A lot of bosses generally will, you know, go around saying, well, we need to improve this, but maybe forget about the fact that you need to go, oh, by the way, but that was really good. Or
Yeah. See, I prefer to focus on the positives, and like give that feedback at the time so that they know it's genuine. I really don't like waiting until like a 6-month review and then thinking, oh, you know, I've worked with that person, but I can't remember like exactly. So just kind of like fabricating like facts to kind of come up with some feedback. I think with like negative feedback, then I try and like frame it in a way that, you know, this, it was really good to work with you on this. I feel like we could have worked better together if we did X. Let's like put a meeting in and like discuss how we're going to do this together, kind of thing. Rather than, you know, saying like you're not very good at presenting. So I just feel like how you frame it and how you deliver it and how you plan to go about improving it is like the crux of giving that constructive feedback. So if that person doesn't trust you or doesn't think that you have good intentions, um, you know, then I just think it's really difficult for that person to then feel like they want to go and try and improve it.
I think a big part of it is just how genuine someone might be with it. I think, because like you say, if it's waiting to a review and then you're listing off some things that this person might have done good or bad, like the relevance of it, or the like how genuine that person feels about it is quite important, I think. And yeah, like you say, if it happens at the time and you can go, I don't know, tell someone well done, or however you go about putting across that feedback. But I think generally the more genuine someone is about actually wanting to help that person, the easier it will be to give and receive that feedback. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you know that that person has like your best intentions at heart when they're giving this feedback, you know, if you feel like they're trying to like get ahead, or they're not being genuine, or they don't really care but they just have to do it because it's a tick box, then I feel like you don't really trust that person, so you're just not really willing to take it on. Like, I think in the podcast with Adam Grant, he says how a lot of people don't respond to the shit sandwich because they listen to the first bit, they switch off for the middle bit, and then they feel like you're being not genuine with the final bit.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. I'm just trying to think of a time that I've received like feedback, critical feedback, and I felt a bit like, yeah, I can't really think of one on the spot.
It's
What
difficult,
about
isn't
you?
it? Because I mean, again, with the sort of I think people, again, with this kind of like it being genuine, like an example that keeps coming into my mind is just, if you're in like a group WhatsApp or something, or it might be like like a group email or something. If someone like emails you saying like well done, or great job today, guys, like it means nothing, doesn't it? Like it needs, and if someone can't come to your face and say, shake your hand, or say, or and equally like in terms of negative feedback, if it was criticism, it's probably just not constructive to I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a separate issue, but I would say that it's not as constructive to email someone what the issue is without being able to explain the kind of nuances
Yeah,
behind it.
yeah. I think obviously it's ideal to be able to do it to somebody's face, but if you're not able to, then I think it's fine to do it over email or Slack or whatever it is. Um, but as long as you're really specific in what you're saying. So I know we were speaking to Suze and she got some random feedback that said like you're not like this, but didn't really say why, or didn't,
Yeah,
give her any angles to work on. And it's kind of like, number one, that's offensive. I don't really know why you're saying it. Number two, you've not really given me anything to work with. So I think it's all about like, if you trust that person, how it's delivered and what's delivered, so that you know how you can like immediately think, right, I don't want to be like viewed in that way, or I want to perform better. So I know exactly what I can do to try and improve that.
because in as Ray Dalio's company, I forget the name of it now, but they had like a policy of it's just like being ridiculously honest about their feedback or criticism to each other, didn't they? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that whether they were the boss, so i.e. Ray Dalio was the boss, or like a new employee or whatever, and so people would just be like send him like a scathing email saying like, oh, you were really like boring today, like you just weren't switched on, you didn't engage in the meeting. Like, imagine saying that to your boss. But what because at first I was like, that's ridiculous, like that would never work. But then the more I thought about it, I thought, well, if you're able to create a community, an environment which that which allows that sort of communication, then I guess that could be beneficial. I don't know. What did you think about it?
I thought it was brilliant, to be honest. Like, I think the more honest that you are and the more frequently that that happens, then I just think it's a positive thing. And I think, like you said, if you build that environment, then people know that you're being genuine, and that they can expect to receive feedback from you, on something that you're doing as well. So I think, um, I just thought it was a really interesting concept, and it says a lot, because I think a lot of people wouldn't feel like they could be honest with their boss, or they'd kind of like dress it up like with the shit sandwich, or like give some fake positive feedback so that they can really tell you what they actually think without it coming across as rude. But I just think it's a really interesting concept to actually be genuine and open.
I guess, yeah, like how genuine it comes across is coming up again, but I think it's that it would strip away like any issues you might have. Oh well, I think it'd be difficult at first, but it'd help with kind of like staying humble and kind of not developing an ego. But I think it's kind of like not having those, because I think it made me think like, what would stop you from being honest with your boss, for example? And it would be just the possibility that there might be consequences of like criticizing your boss. So say if you I don't know, you criticize your boss and then he obviously, right, like worse he fires you or something, but like you might not get that promotion that you've been going for, or whatever. Like,
yeah, I think like with my boss now, I feel quite like we're very like transparent about things, and I'm always saying like, please let me know, and then equally he'll ask for feedback and I'll just be honest. So I think because we both know that it's genuine, that it's not coming from a bad place, there's kind of, it's not really like a hierarchy, it's kind of just like working together, and we both have the same goals, with like him being my boss, in that we both want me to do well because it makes him look good. It makes me look good. Like it's very like together kind of approach on things. So I wouldn't mind if you told me that something was really shit.
yeah. And have you been able to kind of maintain that sort of relationship when you've been in like quarantine and stuff, and it's all been like work from home and over Zoom and all that?
Yeah, I think like I've just kicked off a really big project, and we had to do it from home, so that was a bit of a challenge in that it went quite well, but it was just frustrating because I felt like having that in-person experience would have really benefited it, and been able to like build trust like up front. But I think when this all started, we were all kind of like really like over communicate everything, like have a meeting for everything. Like if you want to talk to somebody, you can Slack them, but it might be more beneficial to just give them a quick call. So I think weirdly, like the relationships have probably become stronger because
Right.
there's a lot of like personable things of working from home. Like they see your house, they see like you in the morning, see you like like you might say personal anecdotes like, oh, I've just been outside in the garden, eaten my lunch, like, oh, I'm reading a book, like this is my family kind of thing. Like it's been very like personable. So you kind of get the benefit of like getting to know people that little bit more. But obviously there are things that you miss, like just walking around the office and bumping into somebody, and like you might end up talking about something and then they'll be like, oh well, I'll invite you to that meeting because it looks like you're interested, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's quite difficult to recreate like that level of like random bumping into people and stuff.
Yeah. I'd never thought of that. The kind of it almost breaks down personal barriers by being like working from home.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess it's a bit weird, like, like someone might be wearing shorts and you'll see the knee, and like, just weird things like that.
you see the knee.
Like, just weird things
Oh,
like that would never happen in the office.
don't get any
Or
knees
like,
in the office. That's me.
or you might see my sister, or like your dog, your kids, like stuff like that you'd never usually like
Yeah,
see.
it's like a comparison of like your sister or your dog visiting in the office.
Yeah, that'd just be weird though, wouldn't it? It'd be like too much almost.
Maybe more people will do it after this.
I feel like that'd be a bit overfacing. Like, when somebody comes back off maternity leave and it's kind of like it's really cute to see their baby, but then sometimes they're a bit like overbearing, and I'm a bit like, I don't really know what to do with a child because I'm not a mother, so please don't make this awkward.
Obviously, just like, okay, now the baby now has to leave the working area.
Yeah, but yeah, it's been good. It's not been as difficult as I imagined, but I just miss like the randomness, I guess.
Yeah. Do you think more people will work from home after this?
Yeah, I think so. I think, there'll probably be like two different camps of people who are dying to get back to the office, me included, and then people who have seen like personal and professional benefits from it.
Mm.
And they're like, this really works for me. I get more time with my family, cut out commuter time. I'm saving money because I can make my lunch at home. I'm a lot more productive, that kind of stuff, because they've got their own space. So I think like as a whole business, like they're always quite like flexible with like work versus work life versus like personal life. But I think they'll probably like want to take a few of those benefits like with us, like in the new world, whatever it looks like. And like let people do what they see suits them the best.
Yeah. Has there been any kind of? Have you experienced any? I guess this could be inside or outside of work, but like, it's interesting how kind of different generations are now having to take on like technology, like like bloody hell, like my parents going on Zoom or something. I'm just like, what? Like,
Yeah, it's really weird. I was talking to somebody the other day actually about like the high street versus like online, and how I was reading an article on how um, like they're seeing like the age and demographic of people like massively change, and that it looks like it's going to stick. But I don't know if people will like revert back to their prior behaviours, or if they'll continue now that they've kind of been forced into learning new behaviours, and then experiencing the benefits of that, or whether they'll like sigh relief and go back into the high street and get like not online.
yeah, because I think kind of more and more things were going online anyway. I mean, obviously,
Mhm.
so I think it will possibly just like speed up the process that was inevitable anyway.
Yeah, like with my parents, they're like online rejectors. Um, like they do what they do, and that's the end of it. Like there's no change in that. And if they have to do something online, then it'll be like they'll ring like my little sister or me, to get help, or sometimes to even like do it for them, because I think it's just they see it as being so painful, whereas we see it as being convenient, and that's kind of our generation. They just see it as being so painful that it's not worth it. Um, but they're like having to, like they don't have any choice, like for some of the things that is just like normal to them. So they're like having to do it now. So I don't know if they'll like go back to what they were like before, or if this will just be like so much less painful, that they'll like stick with these like new behaviours. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think with a lot of things, this situation, like you say, it's forced people into either using more technology or whatever it might be. And I think a lot of the time it's say like an older generation who might not use technology as much as the younger generation does. I think more often than not, it's going to force them to use it, or at least learn how to use it. And then in that respect, then they'll know how to use it, and they'll have those skills, and they'll probably see the benefits of using them. And I think it might make people use these things more in the future, possibly, like I say, kind of sped up that process.
Yeah, I hope so. I guess I just worry for like high streets, and like what that looks like what will be in town centres, like if there's no shops. Like I don't understand like how that will look, but at the same time it's really exciting. But yeah, I can't wait until everyone stops like training to be on eggheads. I'm sick of all these quizzes. Like it is literally like as a nation, like we're all training for like the last quiz of life or something, like Hunger Games but for quizzes.
Oh no, tell me about it. Yeah, I mean, because I've been well, kind of as you know, I've been trying to create a business that would work essentially in a city centre,
Mm-hmm.
and I've just come to the conclusion like I don't know what, like, no one knows what that's going to be like in a year's time or 6 months time. Like you just don't know. I mean, obviously people will start using city centres again, you'd hope, eventually, but it's just whether it goes back to normal, or whether there is like real kind of like lasting effects, whether maybe just generally more people will work from home. Like, if you get 5% more people working from home, then that's 5% of all cities with 5% less people, kind of thing. So
Yeah, I think I don't think it will go back to normal, but it'll just be like a new normal. And with that, like, it'll be a shame for like businesses that take a bit of a hit, but also if they're set up in a way that is like, they can flex to the situation, like you were saying, then there's probably going to be like new opportunities off the back of it. So like new ways of doing things in like our new normal, like adapting to like all the different changes in like behavior, and how like businesses now like sell to people, or like if the physical presence isn't needed anymore.
if the physical presence isn't needed anymore, God, is it going to be like the Matrix, you mean?
Like it could just be like advertisements in town centres rather than physical stores, or just like a way to, like, as you're walking past, that kind of advertisements.
Kind of like, this is what you could order at home, or whatever. Like,
I mean, but maybe you wouldn't even need that, if people aren't walking past.
I mean, like in terms of advertising, it's more like on your phone online, isn't it? Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
'cause
interesting though, isn't it? It's weird.
crazy times. I was listening to um, Joe Rogan's podcast with Elon Musk. They just launched the rocket.
Rocket, yeah. I watched it. Did you?
No, I didn't see it, but like he was talking about his like Neuralink chip, like the chip that goes in your brain and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
like they were talking about that, and he's just so like nonchalantly like talking about how like, yeah, like, you could essentially have like a kind of half and half world of like, people in like virtual reality, and then people
Oh,
that are like, still in the real world, and then he was just like, do you think it'll come? You know, do you think it'll come to a point where like everyone's just in like virtual reality? And he was just like, no, like people will still have like this one. And it's just like, wow, mind blowing.
I know I'd love to be inside his head and see what he's thinking, because I bet that's just the crux of it. But yeah, I was watching the rocket launch yesterday, and it was just really, really scary. Like, to think that they've just been like sat there, like, you know, like tilted back for like hours waiting to be like launched and not knowing what's going to happen. But I guess you could kind of say it's similar to coronavirus in that we're all just waiting and we don't know what's going to happen.
He wants to be on Mars in a few years.
Yeah, I know, it's mental. Also, I was thinking about like, imagine if it becomes like commercialized, like fully to the point where you can just like book your trip to space.
Yeah.
Like,
You go on holiday. You go on holiday to a different planet.
Where are you off? I'm off to Mars. What about you?
Eventually. Well, you might not. There might not be any point in like moving actual locations when you can just move like in your mind.
Oh no.
Virtually.
I'm quite nostalgic though. Like, I don't really like reading newspapers on my phone. I really like touching it and like the ink and like that kind of stuff. Like, I always say that fish and chips never tasted better than it does when it was in the newspaper and you're potentially getting poisoned by the ink.
Try telling that to Elon Musk.
But yeah.
I think there's things like that that'll always be around, won't they? Like, I think people do think that, you know, like in 100 years or whatever, like, oh yeah, there'll just be this totally different world or whatever, but like, it won't be. Like, I mean, how long, like newspapers, how long, do you think there'll be a time where like newspapers just won't exist?
Yeah. I guess, like, you know, with the jetpack stuff, I remember when I was a kid, and I always used to think, like, by the time that I'm an adult, like, everyone will just have jetpacks and we'll all just, like, fly off to work. And that's not happened yet. So if that's anything to go off, which it probably isn't, then maybe we won't have virtual reality in our lifetime.
Maybe we'll have jetpacks.
I hope so. It seems fun.
Jetpacks and flamethrowers first.
Putting fun back into the commute.
I'm telling you, you won't need to commute.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I don't know. The Sims life seems a bit weird, because then, like, you wouldn't really need anything, would you? All you need is your Sims money, and then that's it.
But no, you would still need all the human like aspects of life. Like, do you know what I mean? You'd need like fulfillment and social and.
Yeah, but you can just do that with your Sims friends.
Could you? Could you?
Yeah, like in Sims, it's easy, does it? All you do is like take them out for a couple of meals, and then you're in. So much easier.
No, but you'd still be a human.
This is what I mean, though. If you just live in that virtual reality, then it's almost like, do you lose touch with what's real and what isn't?
Well, potentially. I guess that's the danger, isn't it? Even now, like, you know, look at people that get like addicted to like a video game or something.
Like, in reality, if you're a fat old man, like on his own with like no money, but in virtual reality, like you're like young, really good looking, like you've got all these like friends and women and cars, like which one are you going to choose?
I feel like that's not a world that anyone wants to live in. Like,
no, it's really scary, but it's interesting, an interesting concept. It's kind of like the Black Mirrors. I don't know if you've watched those.
yeah.
Pretty much like that.
Yeah, they're cool. And it does make you think like how close we are to those sort of things. Like, even like in the Elon Musk thing, he even says he just like like, well, we're already like kind of walking cyborgs. Like we all have our phone with us at all times, so we're kind of being controlled by like by computers already. It's just like,
Yeah, I find him fascinating but terrifying at the same time.
yeah.
Like, I'd want to know what he was thinking, but also would be like on the edge of my seat waiting to hear it as well.
I don't understand how he can do so much at once.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the ultimate goals of effectiveness.
Like probably 1 in 10 of the things that he has done are like like setting up PayPal. Like,
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Just that alone, you're just like, whoa, this, that's a huge achievement. But then now, he's just like launching rockets into space, like creating computer chips for your mind, um,
a
like
casual Saturday Eve just launching a rocket.
creating electric cars. Like
Yeah,
you're doing like a transport system under like LA or something. Anyway,
yeah, it's just mental. Maybe he's not a real human. Maybe he's a virtual human.
ooh, never thought of that.
He's probably got two lives.
No, he's definitely a real human because he's pretty crazy. So like,
Yeah, he's probably got one of him in real life and one of him in virtual reality. So he's probably doing even more than we can even imagine.
I never thought of that. I never thought of that. Funny, funny. All right, my love. That was enjoyable.
Cool. Yeah, it was. It was fun. Hope I get you some good hits on that.
Get some good hits. Yes, thank you. Thank you for getting me some good hits.